All right, let's talk about the great American housing puzzle. You know the feeling, right? It's like you're trying to play a game, but the rules keep changing, prices are sky high, and there just aren't enough pieces on the board. Well, today, we're going to piece it all together. I mean, this is the question, isn't it? If you've been asking yourself this, you are definitely not alone. We're going to follow the clues, look at the data, and really unpack what is going on in the housing market today.
You know, the root of this problem, it didn't just pop up overnight. It's a problem that's been quietly getting worse for more than 10 years. And it comes down to something really simple. We just stopped building enough houses. And now we're all feeling the squeeze. It's all about supply.
Okay, so let's jump into our first big clue. The massive, and I really do mean massive, shortage of homes in America. This isn't just a small piece of the puzzle, it's pretty much the whole foundation.
This number right here, this is at the heart of everything. 3.8 million. That is the number of homes America is short right now. It's the gap between all the people who need a place to live and the number of houses that are actually, there for them.
Now, this is where the story gets really fascinating. That red line, that shows the obvious problem. We aren't building enough new homes for new families. But that black line, that reveals this hidden, powerful force called pent-up demand. Think about it. This is millions of people, mostly younger adults, who want to move out, but they're stuck. They're living with their parents or with roommates because they just can't find or afford a place of their own. They're like this invisible wave of demand, just waiting on the sidelines. So even with builders going as fast as they can, we are in a seriously deep hole. At the rate we're building today, it would take 7.5 years just to fill the gap we already have. And that's not even counting any new people needing homes in the future.
So yeah, this isn't just some abstract economic number. Our next clue shows the real, human cost of this shortage, and it's a burden that's falling right on the shoulders of younger generations.
And to really get the human side of this, we have to talk about something called the headship rate. Now, I know it sounds super technical, but the idea is actually really simple. It just measures what percentage of people in a certain age group are the head of their own household. Basically, it's asking, are you living on your own, or are you still with your parents or a bunch of roommates? And this chart, wow, it just lays it all out. The red line is the average from about a decade ago, and the black line is today. For older folks, things are pretty much the same. But look over there on the left side of the chart. For adults under 35, there's a big, clear dip. And that's not just a line on a graph. It represents a delay in huge life milestones. Starting families, building wealth, just getting that feeling of independence.
And the direct result of that falling headship rate? It's right here. That black line at the bottom shows that for Americans under 35, the rate of actually owning a home has just completely stalled out. This is that pent-up demand we were talking about in action. It's a whole generation just waiting for their turn.
And we can actually put a number on that pent-up demand. In 2024 alone, an estimated 1.6 million Gen Z and millennial households that should have been formed just weren't. They're either priced out or simply couldn't find a home to move into.
This stat from the National Association of Realtors is, well, it's just stunning. It puts this whole thing into perspective. Back in 1981, almost half of all home sales were to first-time buyers. Today, it's just 1 in 5. That is a massive, seismic shift in who can even get their foot in the door.
So, you've got all this demand just coiled up like a spring. The big question is, what happens next? Well, forecasters are kind of split. Let's start with the optimistic view, what some are calling the 2026 market thaw.
The National Association of Realtors thinks the market is about to unfreeze. Their theory is that if mortgage rates just dip a bit, down to around 6%, it'll be like a dam breaking. They're predicting a huge 14% jump in sales of existing homes. That means more choices for buyers, but prices are still expected to go up by about 4%.
But not everyone is that optimistic. Another group of experts, this time from Redfin, they see a totally different path forward. They don't see a thaw, they call it the Great Housing Reset.
And this slide really gets to the heart of the debate. On one side, NARE sees this big rebound, sales jumping 14%. On the other side, Redfin sees a slow, long grind, with sales only taking up 3%. It's the difference between a market that snaps back to life versus one that just slowly inches its way back to normal over a few years. So who's right? The honest answer is they both could be, because the future of housing isn't one single story. These big national numbers are just averages. What really matters for you depends almost entirely on where you live.
And this comparison just makes that point so perfectly.
Look at the chart on the left. That gray line way up top, that's the American South. They are building way more homes than anyone else. Now, look at the table on the right to see what that means. At this rate, the South could close its housing gap in just 3 years. The Midwest, 41 years. And the Northeast? Get this, their gap is actually getting worse.
These huge regional differences are exactly why you're hearing this growing call to just let America build. The argument is that the reason the South is doing so well while other places are struggling really comes down to policy, and that the only way to solve this puzzle for everyone is to cut the red tape, ease up on restrictive zoning, and just build more homes.
And all of this leaves us with one last big question. We've talked about a great housing reset. But is the American dream of home ownership itself, that basic promise that every generation can have it a little better than the last, is that dream resetting right along with it?